Shirley Chisholm. Shirley Chisholm. Focus question. How did Shirley Chisholm fight for the people of the United States? Making history. On January 25th, 1972, Shirley Chisholm made a historic speech at a Brooklyn church. She said, "I stand before you today as the candidate for the Democratic nomination for the presidency of the United States of America." The crowd inside the church cheered loudly. Chisholm continued speaking. "I am not the candidate of Black America. Although I am black and proud, I am not the candidate of the women's movement of this country. Although I am a woman, and I am equally proud of that. I am the candidate of the people of America. And I present before you now symbolize a new era in American political history." Shirley Chisholm was the first woman to run for the Democratic Party's presidential nomination. She was the first black candidate to seek at any major party's nomination. A new era in American history had begun. Between Brooklyn and Barbados. Shirley Chisholm was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1924. Her mother came from the Caribbean island of Barbados. Her father was from Ghana in South America. For part of her childhood, Shirley and her sisters were sent to Barbados to live with their grandmother. This was during the Great Depression, a time of economic hardship in the United States. Shirley's parents stayed in Brooklyn and did their best to work through the hard times before bringing their children back. Shirley enjoyed her grandmother's warmth. She learned to read before she turned 5. A few years later, she returned to Brooklyn permanently. Back in New York, her parents still struggled, but they did their best to provide for their children. Shirley was a good student who studied hard throughout school. In high school, her good grades allowed her entry into Brooklyn College. Student and teacher. In college, Chisholm knew she wanted to help people. She eventually decided to become a teacher. Known for her speaking skills, she did especially well in debates. One of her teachers were very impressed after watching Chisholm speak. He told her she should go into politics. At the time, though, sexist and racist attitudes prevented many black women from going into politics. A club for our own. Black students were allowed to join Brooklyn College's special clubs. The students held many social activities such as parties, dances, and other events at the school. Chisholm decided to start her own social club. Eventually, the all-white social clubs changed their policies and expected black students as members. After graduating in 1946, Chisholm taught at the Brooklyn Nursery School. She saw many things in the community that was unfair. Why was there so much discrimination? Why was it hard for people to afford medical care? Why couldn't parents find good schools for their children? Chisholm saw that political party leaders were all white, even though most who lived in her community were people of color. In fact, Brooklyn didn't have a single black politician. Chisholm made up her mind. She was going to do whatever she could to make her life in Brooklyn better. Entering politics, Chisholm became active with groups that were trying to create the social change she knew her neighborhood needed. In the early 1960s, she began going to Democratic Party meetings. Every person in her community needed a voice. Their problems couldn't be addressed unless their voices were heard. Chisholm decided to change the situation herself. In 1964, she ran for the seat in the New York State Legislature. It was already a Democratic district, and she won the race easily. Chisholm became the only black woman in the legislature. Once in office, Once in office, Chisholm tried to get help to those who needed it most. She wrote one bill to provide scholarships for students of color. She wrote another to benefit workers who had lost their jobs. 4 years later, in 1968, she decided to run for the U.S. Congress. Many people, including some in her own party, were angry. There had never been a black woman in Congress. Black women can't run for Congress, they said. Chisholm ignored them. She fought hard and won the race. Chisholm in Congress. In Congress, Chisholm stood up for the things she believed in. She fought for racial and gender equality. She worked to better the lives of people in low-income communities. She became known as Fighting Shirley, a determined politician. If she thought a goal was important, she refused to give up. For 15 years, Chisholm worked to create a national holiday to honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The holiday finally became law in 1983. Another goal was keeping families healthy. She helped create the Woman. In fact, the children program, which gave food and nutrition education to those in need. The program has helped millions of American families since it began. A race for the nomination. In Congress, Chisholm was not as bothered by the problems facing the nation as she had been by those facing her Brooklyn communities. Once again, she felt that people were being overlooked. She wanted to be their voice. So in 1972, Chisholm decided to run for president. Once again, many people were angry. Black women can't run for the presidency, critics said. Once again, Chisholm ignored them. It wasn't easy. Running a campaign could be expensive. Candidates usually had to pay for travel, ads, and people to help. Chisholm would need to get her message out with much less than that. One way candidates could get their message out to the public was through debates on television. Chisholm was not allowed to take part in these debates, however. The organizers said she didn't have a chance of winning. Chisholm fought to be in the debates. Eventually, she was given time for a speech on television. When some people heard Chisholm speak, they found good reasons to vote for her. She forecast two needs that was ignored by many of the politicians of the time. She spoke about people in need. Older people, people of color, veterans, and farm workers. Chisholm shared her vision of a new America. She described a country in which every person would enjoy equality. The vision gained Chisholm thousands of devoted volunteers. Often young people, these volunteers attended rallies, put up posters, and went door to door talking to voters. In the end, Chisholm did not earn a nomination for president, but she made a powerful statement. Every single person, regardless of their backyard, has a right to take part in politics. Chisholm returned to Congress where she served until 1983. Chisholm's legacy. Chisholm never expected to win the nomination. I ran because somebody had to do it first. She wrote in her 1973 book, The Good Fight. In this country, everybody is supposed to be able to run for president, but that has never really been true. Chisholm wanted to run to inspire others. She hoped it would lead to the day when no goal was out of reach for any person. In 2020, 48 years after Chisholm ran for the presidency, Kamala Harris became the first black woman to serve as vice president. Although Chisholm died in 2005, her legacy will live for the generations to come.